What if I told you that money isn't actually scarce? That it can be created out of nothing? And if that's true, then a strange question appears. Why does poverty still exist? Why are people working their entire lives for something that can literally be printed? To understand that, we need to go back hundreds of years to a world of merchants, gold, and a simple piece of paper that quietly changed the entire global economy. Long before credit cards, online banking, or even paper currency, trade was controlled by merchants. These merchants traveled between cities and countries, buying and selling goods, silk, spices, metals, food, fabrics. But they had a major problem. Trade required gold, and gold was incredibly inconvenient. It was heavy, dangerous to transport, and extremely attractive to thieves. Carrying large amounts of gold across long distances was basically asking to get robbed. So merchants came up with a clever solution. Instead of carrying their gold with them, they deposited it in a bank for safekeeping. In return, the bank gave them a receipt. This receipt was simply a contract saying, "We promise to give you your gold back whenever you want it." At first, this was just about security. But something interesting happened. Merchants realized it was much easier to trade the receipts instead of the gold itself. If a merchant in Italy wanted to buy goods from someone in England, instead of transporting gold across Europe, he could simply hand over the receipt. The person receiving the receipt trusted that the bank would honor it. And just like that, paper promises started functioning as money. Trade became easier, faster, and safer. But something even more important was happening behind the scenes inside the banks. Imagine you are a banker. People deposit $5 million worth of gold into your vault. That gold just sits there. Then another merchant comes in and says he needs money for trade. You could give him the gold, but that creates risk and inconvenience. Instead, you give him a receipt worth $5 million. Now think carefully about what just happened. The original depositor still has a receipt for $5 million in gold. And now this new merchant also has a receipt for $5 million. But the bank still only has $5 million in actual gold. On paper, $10 million now exists. In reality, only $5 million is there. Money was just created out of thin air. This system worked surprisingly well for a long time. Most people didn't actually come back to withdraw their gold at the same time. The receipts just circulated in trade. As long as people trusted the bank, everything functioned smoothly. But hidden inside the system was a terrifying weakness. What happens if everyone suddenly wants their gold back at the same time? The bank doesn't have enough. This is what we now call a bank run. If too many people demand their money at once, the illusion collapses. The bank can't fulfill all the contracts it promised. Panic spreads, trust disappears, and the financial system starts falling apart. Throughout history, bank runs have destroyed banks, cities, and even entire economies. But strangely, that wasn't the biggest problem bankers faced. The biggest risk came from kings. Back then, banks didn't mainly lend money to business the way they do today. They lent money to rulers, kings, nobles, and governments. And rulers always needed money for one major reason: war. Armies were expensive. Weapons were expensive. Wars were constant. So kings borrowed enormous amounts of money from banks. But lending to kings was extremely dangerous. Kings died in battles. Kings lost wars. And sometimes kings simply decided they didn't feel like paying their debts. If a powerful ruler refused repayment, what could a single bank do about it? Not much. So banks adapted. They began forming alliances with other banks. Powerful banking families partnered across regions and countries. They married into each other's families, built networks, and shared financial interests. If a king refused to repay one bank, he might suddenly find multiple financial powers aligned against him. Over time, these alliances between banks became stronger and more organized. Eventually, they evolved into the foundations of what we now call central banking. And this is where the story takes a deeper turn. Because once you understand how banking works, you realize something important. Money itself isn't really gold or paper. It's belief. It's a system of trust. It's numbers recorded in accounts and contracts between institutions. And numbers can be created whenever those who control the system decide to create them. So that leads to a strange and uncomfortable question. If money can be created, why is there poverty? Why are people struggling to survive if money can be generated digitally at any time? Most people answer this question by saying resources are scarce. Food is limited, land is limited, materials are limited. But the conversation here is about money itself. Money is not a natural resource. It's a system humans built. Governments and financial institutions create new money regularly. Entire economies run on this expansion. So if money can be created, why doesn't everyone simply have enough? Think about incentives for a moment. Why do people work hard? Why do students study for years? Why do people chase promotions, build businesses, compete, and struggle? Because they want money. Money represents security, freedom, and survival. But imagine a world where everyone had unlimited money. Would people still compete the same way? Would people work as intensely? Would society function the same way it does today? Probably not. This leads to a controversial idea discussed by some economists and historians. Systems often depend on perceived scarcity. Not necessarily absolute scarcity, but the belief that something valuable is difficult to obtain. That belief motivates behavior. It drives ambition and productivity. Entire economies run on this idea. Now consider another question that few people think about. Why do financial crises happen? Recessions, stock market crashes, economic collapses. They are often described as accidents or mistakes. But look at what actually happens during a crisis. Businesses fail, markets crash, debts are erased, wealth disappears. In other words, money gets destroyed or removed from the system. And when money becomes harder to obtain again, competition and urgency return. Scarcity reappears. Think of it like a game. In many video games, players spend hours collecting coins, gold, or points. That challenge is what keeps the game engaging. But imagine if the game suddenly gave every player unlimited currency. Instantly, the challenge disappears. The motivation to keep playing fades. The system stops working the way it was designed. In some ways, our economic system operates with a similar psychological structure. People wake up every day, work hard, compete, and innovate largely because they believe resources, especially money, are limited and must be earned. And once you begin looking at money through that lens, the modern world starts to feel different. The system we live inside didn't appear overnight. It evolved slowly, from simple merchant receipts into complex global financial networks. What began as pieces of paper representing gold eventually turned into digital numbers moving through central banks, governments, and financial institutions across the planet. Which brings us back to the original question. If money can be created, why does poverty exist? Is it simply because resources are limited? Is it because systems need inequality to function? Or is the reality far more complicated than any single explanation? Economists, historians, and policymakers still debate these questions today. But understanding where money came from changes the way you see the world. Because once you realize that modern finance began with simple promises written on paper, it becomes clear that the global economy is built on systems of trust, power, and human decisions, not just physical resources. So the next time you think about money, ask yourself something. Are we really chasing money itself? Or are we chasing what money represents? Security, status, survival, opportunity? And if you start digging deeper into how modern banking actually works today, how central banks create money, how crises happen, and how financial systems shape society, you'll realize this story goes much deeper than most people imagine.